Hi, my name is Lillian Rodriguez, and this is my linguistic journey and how it has transformed and changed throughout the years. First of all, it started with my parents. My parents were both born in San Juan Citlaltepec, Mexico. They met in that same town, and several years later, on October 8th, I was born. We lived in Mexico until I was about 2 years old, and there, of course, I was surrounded by only Spanish speakers. Then my parents decided to make the life-changing decision of immigrating to the United States for a better future for all of us, but especially their children. And so our life began in San Antonio, Texas. After a couple of months after living here, my sister was born. Fast forward some more years, and my other two sisters were born as well. I have always spoken vernacular Spanish for as long as I can remember. It was my first language and the only one I knew how to speak until I was about 6 years old. For my parents, it was very important for us to learn English because it was obviously the way to advance in this country, but they wanted us to learn English without forgetting Spanish. Throughout my first years of school, although it was not difficult for me to learn vernacular American English, I did a lot of code mixing. I would not know a lot of the English words and phrases, so I would switch to what I was most comfortable with, which was Spanish. During my elementary school years, I was a part of the bilingual program, but unfortunately there were very few times where teachers actually spoke to us in Spanish. Their main goal was for us to learn English as soon as possible. For that reason, around 3rd grade, I switched to an all-English program and stopped speaking Spanish at school for the most part. For the rest of my K through 12 education, I spoke no Spanish at school, nor with my friends, although many of them spoke the language. We were just comfortable communicating in English. As time passed, the importance of speaking Spanish diminished due to the fact that everyone around me spoke English all the time except for my parents and older relatives. Intrasentential code switching. My family and I use intrasentential code switching, or as we like to call it, Spanglish, at least 15 times a day, if not more. I speak like that mainly with my sisters when we're speaking either Spanish or English and we forget or don't know a word in our sentence. We just say it in another language and still understand each other. Language crossing involves people who are not proficient in a certain language but want to learn it. My parents are a good example of that because although they have been trying to learn the English language for years, it is still quite difficult for them and they have a hard time communicating in English. For that reason, sometimes people don't make them feel wanted or accepted, all because of their accent. I now value the fact that I am bilingual and how much of an advantage I have over people who don't speak two languages. For my social identity, I identify as a daughter, a sister, a student, employee, and a lot of other things. These things aren't precisely what I have, but rather something I do. Lastly, around San Antonio, there are several examples of linguistic landscapes. There are signs, billboards, advertisements, and so on in two languages, but especially both English and Spanish. I'm proud to live in a city full of Latinos and a lot more wonderful diversity.